Hey guys, my name is Nathan Simmons and I'm with the Renew Group. And not sure if Ashton or Carrie have informed you of this, but we're going to be setting you guys up with some supplemental benefits for comfort keepers for the staff. So, not sure if you guys know what supplemental benefits are, but basically, if something were to happen to you or your family, we put money back in your pocket. That money doesn't go to the doctor, doesn't go to the doctor or hospital, it goes directly to you, and you use the money however you need to. All right, and so something I want to make you guys all aware of that y'all need to make sure that y'all thank Ashton and Carrie because they are actually setting some of these things up for you, and what they're actually going to be doing is they're going to be providing you guys with $10,000 worth of life insurance for every single one of you guys. All right, so you need to definitely make sure that you thank them. And now y'all are also going to get to have the opportunity to buy up on additional life insurance coverage. And y'all are going to be able to buy up to an additional $75,000 worth of life insurance guaranteed issue, which means y'all aren't going to have to answer any health questions, not go through any blood work. Y'all are guaranteed to get up to an extra $75,000 worth of life insurance should you want to go that high. So just wanted to give you guys that heads up. Now, part of the reason that Ashton and Carrie are setting this up for you guys is, my brokerage is the one that services the Colonial Life benefits for comfort keepers, and I typically do supplemental benefits in a lot of the groups that I work with. That whether they're providing health insurance or they're not providing health insurance, really, that's one of the bigger reasons of why supplemental benefits is being offered by Ashton and Carrie. Wanted to make sure that you guys had the availability to chat about this or put this in place, is because regardless of what your current health insurance situation is right now, that's really honestly why I do what I do, because just last year the leading cause of bankruptcies in America was due to medical bills. And the crazy thing is of those people who filed bankruptcy, 78% of those folks had health insurance, which just tells me that health insurance is not the end all be all. Now, I'm not sure what y'all's health insurance situation is individually, but let's say you guys had the best thing in the world. Y'all have the best health insurance in the world right now, and y'all don't owe a dime to the doctor or hospital should you ever have to go. I don't even think there's something like that that exists anymore, but let's say you had something like that. All right, but let's say one of you is out of work for a period of time, or you're on maternity leave or something of the sort. Would you guys agree that 82% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? Absolutely. I'm one of them. That's going to be one of the first things we're going to show you how to do whenever you talk to our benefit counselors, is how to protect your paycheck. Because I don't imagine any of you guys are volunteering for a living. All right, and we're typically able to show you how to protect that at less than $10 a week. All right. Now, I know insurance is the last thing in the world that people like talking about. It's not something that I'm sure you guys are asking for Christmas. Is, hey, I want more insurance, so we get it. But there's something I want you guys to think about. Let's say, the analogy I'll use is, let's say you guys went home from work every single day, and if you had a toaster at your house, and you went home from work every single day, and you pressed down the lever on that toaster, that you knew as long as you did that, coming home from work every single day, that toaster was going to pop up $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Would you protect that toaster in case it broke so you could replace it with another one that does the exact same thing? Absolutely you would. That's no different than a paycheck. You've got that coming to you right now. What happens if all of a sudden that paycheck breaks? All right, so that's going to be one of the first things we're going to talk about. Secondly, we're going to talk about survivor benefits through life insurance. All right, and now again, Ashton and Carrie are providing you some life insurance, which you guys need to be extremely thankful for. And so I'll just tell you, one of the things that I see is over the half the people I visit with, they tell me they don't have anything, or the ones that do, tell me they don't feel like they've got enough to sustain their family's lives for 2 or 3 months after something happening, much less being able to put somebody in the ground. The crazy thing is, the main reason why I get told why people don't have anything is because they don't know where to get it, which that kind of blows me away, because I kind of feel like it's every other TV commercial. But one of the problems that I see is there might be a CEO at this really big company that wants a couple $1 million worth of life insurance, and there's people lining up the door to go see that person. But there's not too many people seeking out the individuals looking for just 15 to 20 grand to cover burial expenses. All right. So here's the thing. All right. You guys are all going to be provided with life insurance, and then everything else you're going to be able to kind of look at your own discretion. But let me recommend 2 things to you. The great thing about what Ashton and Carrie are putting in place for you guys is, if you guys want to do something extra, great. If not, no big deal. But let me recommend 2 things to you. if you care about your family at all, look at protecting your paycheck with short-term disability, especially if the money that you make you live off of, and look at a minimum of $15,000 to $20,000 of personal life insurance to at least have set aside for just burial expenses, to at least because that's the one piece of insurance that you're going to use at some point in your life. All right, so just something to think about. Now, as far as the holes of health insurance come into play, you're going to be able to look at some other things. What I typically talk about is what I call the big three, and that is cancer, heart attack, and stroke. Cancer means a lot to me personally, just because my son's mother and I, we had a scare a couple years ago. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been around something like that before, but minimum cost of cancer right now is about 25, 30 grand out of pocket, and that's if you have unbelievable health insurance too. Because what most people don't realize, unless they've been around a scenario like that before, is that on average, 2/3 of cancer costs aren't being covered by health insurance right now, which is really alarming, because 1 in every 2 men are being diagnosed right now, and 1 in every 3 women are being diagnosed right now. And I'd venture to say you all know somebody currently right now who's either currently going through it or who's been through it recently. And unfortunately, it's a very prevalent problem. And now, part of what I try to do, or my brokerage tries to do, is we try to educate a little bit, because for those of you who have health insurance, sometimes health insurance can work well with a cancer-related scenario. It's just dependent on what cancer situation that you have, and what facility that you may be getting treatment. All right, but part of the reason that we discuss cancer policies with my clients is because one of the bigger issues of why health insurance doesn't provide much benefit on the cancer side is because, on average, or the majority of treatments for cancer are classified as experimental treatments, which there's not a health insurance in the world that will pay for an experimental treatment, but a cancer policy will. There's a specific designation of a benefit for that scenario. And then secondly, from an education standpoint, give you guys an idea of, and I hope nobody is in that scenario, but again, we've talked about how prevalent it is when my son's mother and I, we went through our scare, we were actually living in East Texas at the time, out in the Longview, Tyler area, and we'd actually looked at going to MD Anderson down in Houston, and you take into account travel, meals, lodging. Those are all things health insurance doesn't pay for, and you're down there for weeks at a time, and so that's something to think about that health insurance doesn't pay for. Now, on top of that, we were real close from going from a 2-income family to a 0-income family like that, because I wasn't going to send her to go get treatment by herself. So just something to think about. That's something that we're typically able to show people how to protect themselves at less than $10 a week. All right. Now, as far as heart attack and stroke related stuff, that's going to be covered in our critical illness policy through Colonial Life. Now, the thing I'll say on that is that's going to be more family history related. I would encourage you to ask questions about that policy if you have family history of either one of those two things. Now, and part of the reason I say that, especially if you're younger, you may not be worried about having a heart attack or stroke anytime soon, but the way that all of the Colonial policies that work is whatever age you get them at, it stays that rate for the rest of your life. All right. So again, if you've got family history of either one of those two things, I'd encourage you to ask questions when you speak to our benefit counselor, just because you can get coverage dirt cheap, especially if you're younger, to when you may not have to worry about it later. Now, why is something like a critical illness policy even important to begin with? Well, number one, when you have a heart attack or stroke or something like that, you're not in the hospital for very long. The problem typically is that when you get released from the hospital, you're not right back on your feet doing what you were doing. There's typically a couple months of recovery time before you're able to get back to work. Case in point, I actually had a coworker of mine a couple years ago. His father had a heart attack, and he was in the hospital for about a week. Sure enough, got released, and he was actually out of work for about 3.5 months. And thankfully, he had a critical illness policy with us that as soon as he had his heart attack, he was written a check for $15,000, and he was able to make that $15,000, make that he was able to make the house payment, the car payment, and everything else, and until he was able to go back to work. Because that's one of the things that I want to make sure that you all understand. It's kind of what my brokerage does is regardless of what y'all's current insurance situation is right now, y'all can negotiate with hospitals. You pay them $5 a week, and they can't do a single thing to you. But try being out of work, and something crazy happened, and try negotiating a house payment or a car payment. That's where what I do comes into play. All right. So again, y'all need to make sure that y'all thank Carrie and Ashman for putting this in place and making this available to you guys. All right. Now, you'll also be able to look at an accident policy. Recommend looking at that if you got kids that are in school playing sports. You'd be surprised how often you would use that. I've seen in my career, I've seen it cover everything from a broken toe to a bee sting. So anyway, so that's something to look at as well. And then lastly, the last two things. One, you guys will all be able to look at a hospital confinement policy, which is basically it's a policy called Medical Bridge, which for those of you who have health insurance, if you are maybe concerned about reaching your deductible, should you ever need to, let's say your deductible is $3,000 and you don't feel like you could get there, we've got a policy that's designed to, let's say you're in the hospital for some reason and you're there overnight and you need to get to your deductible, so co-insurance kicks in. Well, that Medical Bridge policy will bridge the gap to get you to your deductible. We'll basically cut you a check to get you to your deductible, so co-insurance kicks in. So if that's a concern for you, I would encourage you to ask questions. And then lastly, you guys will have availability to look at a PPO dental and vision plan. It's a very large network in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's a standard dental and vision plan that covers it covers cleanings. There's no payment for the cleanings, and then vision, there's a $10 copay on exams and a $25 copay on materials. So something that for dental and vision purposes, I would encourage you to ask questions about that. Obviously, if you have anything that you want to discuss about that. And so we're actually, what's going to be happening is one of our benefit counselors here at our brokerage, we're actually going to be reaching out to you guys one-on-one via phone. And we're going to be talking to each one of you to get that life insurance set up for you guys, and we're going to get the name of the beneficiary. And then we'll go through anything else that you may want to go through. So the life insurance is all provided. However, we do still have to talk to everybody to get that name of the beneficiary. All right. So now there is actually two more things that we're going to be able to that are going to be given to you guys. Something that we were able to do as a brokerage is just a thank you for Comfort Keepers doing business with us. And so the first thing is every single employee is actually going to get $10,000 of free AD&D. And so y'all are going to get an additional $10,000 of essentially some accidental life insurance. All right. So that is something that Carrie and Ashman were able to get set up for you as well, and that's going to be at no cost to you guys. And then lastly, you guys are all going to get something called a discount card, called a well card. And what that well card is basically a discount card. It's a card that you can use for discounts on prescriptions, dental and vision, pretty much anything medically related. The cool thing is the card, you can actually use it for discounts on movie tickets, Six Flags, SeaWorld, Disney World. You can even use it on sports tickets. All right. So my wife and I, we actually just used it to take our kids to Disney just a few weeks ago. So basically the way the card works is you go online and it shows you a list of places that accept the card depending on what you're trying to use it for, and you just type in the zip code and it'll show you. I actually had a buddy of mine that used the card about a year ago to stay at the Omni Hotel in downtown Houston for $100 a night. Y'all know anything with the Omni, that's dirt cheap. And then probably my favorite story, this is just kind of a God thing. We actually had a lady a couple years ago. She had cancer, but she was in remission. And anyway, she was having to take this medication that was about $1,200 a month. And we were able to get the medication down to $275 a month with that card. So, again, you guys are all going to get that card. You don't pay anything for the card until you actually use it at a different facility, or whether it's a prescription or you're obviously purchasing Disney World tickets or movie tickets or whatever. So here's what I'll tell you on that: y'all are all going to get that. It's one card for the whole family, but there's no name that's attached to that card until you actually go online and register that card. And so if you don't think you'll use that card at all, give it to somebody. Give it to a friend, give it to a family member, give it to somebody that you think might get some use out of it, because, again, it's not a card that's just strictly tied into Comfort Keepers. Y'all are all just going to get it. And so if you don't think you'll use it, give it to somebody. All right? So myself and my business partner, Robert, and then my benefit counselor, you'll either be talking to Aaron Edney or Stephen Hughes. Those are going to be the people that are going to be reaching out to you guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out or get in contact with Ashman or Carrie. And again, make sure you thank those two and getting those set up, and we'll talk to you guys soon.